All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for sharing your day with us. We're really happy to see you. I'm sure more people will pop on here as we go. I'm Marilee Boylan. I'm the Director of Employment Programs for the Strong Center for Developmental Disabilities, and I'm also the coordinator of our project search programs across the state, trying to give you guys good information and resources to help your outcomes of your program. We have a really good day planned. So we have taken the information from the survey that we had gotten out to you and tried to give you the information that you were requesting. The other piece is that we understand that there's some new court rulings that have impacted a lot of the districts in having students stay potentially through their 22nd birthday. So we wanted to be responsive to that as well, as the districts are trying to figure out how to navigate that. We wanted to give you information on the hybrid model. There's lots of hybrid model project search through the state, meaning that they both serve young adults and transition age youth. So we wanted to give you some information if that's something that you all wanted to grow into. We do have Holly Opatic today with us, and she's going to give us lots of good information that we can utilize both for hybrid programs and model fidelity steering committee work. And then we have, and you'll have to give me a little grace because I've never done breakout sessions, but we're going to learn today. It's hard to practice that when you don't have people. So we're going to work on that today. And we have lots of different breakout groups. We have benefit planning and the disability resource coordinators through the Department of Labor. So they're going to give you lots of good information about what resources they can offer your students with disabilities. And maybe if you have some questions about benefit planning and how students or adults can work and be on benefits, they're going to be able to give you lots of good information. Michelle Shapiro is here. She is going to have a breakout on internship development through job obtainment. So how do you, while the students are still in project search, how do you get them employed before they leave you? She'll give you some key resources there. We have like a marketing brainstorming group. It's going to be self-moderated, but it's going to be some time where you can talk with the other folks in the group about, how do you recruit? What events do you do? What kind of brochures do you have? Maybe you can share some of those resources. But also, how do you get information out to the business so that more internship sites could be developed? How do you become part of that business culture? We have Julia Kelly here. Debbie, you may have to help me with your pronunciation. Gabrione?
That's close enough. Gabrione. Yep.
Gabrione, thank you. And Pam Brem Bissillon.
I go by Pam Brem. It's a lot easier. It's Bazillion, but Pam Brem is good.
Hi, Pam. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. And they're going to give you lots of good information. If you have program implementation questions, funding questions, you can ask both folks from OPWDD and Access VR on different questions you may have had over time. And finally, we have Holly for more questions about just about the model, any model fidelity components, or how you work in model fidelity with your steering committee work. Well, we wanted to start out today. Oh, and if by chance, I know that everybody has, they're trying to multitask and it's hard because it's a long day, but if you can leave your camera on, that would be really helpful so that everybody can see each other. We wanted to start off today just with some icebreakers. If we can go around and just give our names, our host business of the project search, the city that you work out of, and one tip, trick, or innovation that you would have to share. And and if you're not a project search program, maybe just something innovative that's happening that you're really happy to share about. So, Faith, can we start with you?
You would start with me. I feel like I'm like probably one of the newbies, but okay. I was trying to think of a tip, trick, or innovation, but we'll get there. So I'm Faith Baker from Jamestown, New York. I work for the Resource Center, and our host business is UPMC Chautauqua, which is our local hospital. We are in our second year, which is why I say newbie. Oh, I don't know if it's so much as a tip, trick, or innovation, but just kind of for anybody who might be newer than us, just kind of trust the process, and you'll see changes come that you want to see. You just have to keep moving forward. That's what I've got.
Thank you. Thank you. Julia.
Good morning. I'm Julia Kelly, OPWDD, Director of Employment and Meaningful Community Activities. And we have lots of exciting things going on right now. And we're expanding our pre-voc services to help people build careers. So when they come out of high school or college with their first job, we're hoping, we're working with pre-vocational providers to continue working with people in their career plan so they can eventually get to the better job or their dream job. So that's kind of one of our many, many big changes. We are also working on becoming an employment first state. So lots and lots of great things happening there. Thank you.
Holly.
Hi, everybody. I'm Holly Opatic. I am the program specialist assigned to the state of New York. I am actually coming to you from New York City. I'm here working with AHRC teams this week who are starting 2 new programs. I think I saw Michelle on here. Yeah, Michelle Shapiro is here. We had a wonderful day with Restaurant Associates, which is one of the new hosts. And Marilee, I did put a plug in for getting us in Albany. And Steve Santangelo was like, we will get there. So I see Michelle shaking her head. So yes, she heard the same thing, Marilee.
Right. Yes. We love Albany.
So yeah, so I'm coming to you from Manhattan, and going to enjoy the rainy day here today. From the project search standpoint, I think there are a lot of things that are kind of hopping. What I would say to everybody is that our program specialists have been getting together a lot. So we've already had 2 retreats this year, which is unusual, but that's just because we have so much work to do. And so if you are not coming to the conference, I would really encourage you to think about it, because we are going to unveil and roll out some new things that we're working on. And so, as Marilee said, it should be a good time, and it's a great opportunity to hear those things like as they're happening and in person instead of a little while later. And that way you get the summer to kind of jump on all the new stuff and roll it out as part of your program year for 24-25.
And just a plug for the conference, lots of not only like local teams, but also like state VR, and lots of the state agencies are there, and it allows a wonderful time to really connect with other like VR organizations across the nation and like mind meld and get information. So it's great. It's really wonderful. Pam.
Good morning. I'm Pam Brem. I work out of the Albany District Office of Access VR as a senior transition counselor. I'm here, to kind of listen in and help represent Access VR with Debbie Gabrione. We're always excited to learn new and innovative things going on in the world of transition. So just eager and excited to be here.
And thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Debbie.
Yes, good morning. My name is Debbie Gabrione, and I work at Access VR up in our central office, and I am a statewide manager of recruitment, district office support, and staff development. So very happy to be here with all of you today. I work in our central office. And what else? Something innovative that we're doing at Access VR. I guess nothing super innovative at the moment, other than we continue to get lots of funding for services for students. And these services can be extended to students who have applied to Access VR, as well as those who have not yet and are considered potentially eligible. So we're always on a mission to get the word out about these services, which we call pre-employment transition services, pre-ETS. So just continuing the good mission of getting the word out and trying to serve as many students as we possibly can and get them ready for employment.
Thank you very much. Kathy, Barbara? Oop, you're still muted. Kathy will take the pressure off. We'll come back. Christine Snyder.
Good morning, everyone. Christine Snyder. I work at OPWDD in central office with the Employment and Meaningful Community Activities Unit with Julia Kelly, here to support some of the questions that will be asked during the roundtable. I have some background with Project Search when I worked previously in Region 1, which is the Finger Lakes and Western New York district of OPWDD. So innovative things that OPWDD has going on, so many. One of which that wasn't stated already is the career-specific vocational training program that is happening statewide that gives people the marketable skills in specific vocational areas to enter the workforce. And that's something that is funded with state dollars, and that has a complementary piece of community vocational experiences that are funded with a waiver service. Typically pre-vocational services that Julia mentioned, or pathway to employment, and in some cases, supported employment. The goal of that program is to fast track people for participation in the employment training program. So that's part of what we have happening here. Happy to be with you all.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. All right, Kathy, I see you're unmuted.
Yes, thank you. We're having some trouble, some technical difficulties, but hi, I'm Kathy Barbara. I am the instructor at a Montefiore New Rochelle program, and I'm joined here today with Megan Humphrey from Access VR. She's visiting today. We're so excited. Nina Pissarra, she's our new employment specialist. Brianna Rett, she's one of our teaching assistants and job coaches, and Lisa's in the other room. So we're very excited to be on this call. We couldn't make it in person, but we're very excited to connect with everybody in New York. My role is teacher. This is my 9th year. And I think the innovation just is like every year it's a little bit different. We have people with different levels of experience with the program, and the more experience, obviously we have different ideas. So we're always trying to improve the program. I think this year, because of what we learned at the conference last year about the partners meetings, we did change what we do at the partners meetings. Instead of going over what the students do, in the job sites, we now, pick 1 or 2 model fidelity items, and we try to improve,
That's
so
fantastic.
yeah. So every year we do try something different. We're just really trying to hone in on different model fidelity items every year. So.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Cannon.
Hi, my name is Lisa Cannon, and I am with Arnett Health in Elmira, New York. I am the instructor for Project Search, and this is our second year. And so we're kind of newbies too. At our last, as far as like innovation, the one thing I thought about was at our last steering team committee meeting, we were discussing how to get the word out a little more beyond our community. And we are talking about working with one of the classes up on BOCES to come in and create a video of our interns to kind of put out there to get the word out. And then that way, we're also working with another career and technical education program, and just thought that would be a neat thing to do. So we're in just the beginning stages of that.
That's an awesome idea.
Thank you.
And I know the introductions are going to take some time, but I guess my goal is that everybody can start to get to know names and faces and then utilize each other as resources outside of this meeting, outside of these meetings. We're a really big state with 23 different programs, and we want to use each other as resources. Lindsay Graham.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lindsay Grimm. I am an associate director with Heritage Christian Services, and I oversee our employment services and pre-employment transition services. So I kind of help out with project search, although Jessica Bellardine is our coordinator and instructor of the program. Our host business is at Jewish Senior Life. Innovative things. I feel like we're always doing innovative things as a team, but being put on the spot, I guess, just working with our host business and partnerships in the community to explore customized employment positions for after the program. Thank you.
I love hearing about customized employment. That makes my heart sing. Lindsay.
Good morning, I'm Lindsay Brannick. I work for the Arc of Shemang Schuyler as the vocational director. This is our second year.
Lindsay, it's hard to hear you for some reason. Try again. You're not muted.
No, I was just trying to turn up the volume.
There you go.
Is that better?
Yes.
I'll just start over. I don't know what you heard. I'm Lindsay Brannick. I work for the Arc of Shemang Schuyler as the vocational director. We are 2 years into project search at the Arnett Health site. It's really kind of my first year. I wasn't involved the previous year. I'm not sure what tips, tricks, innovations we're working on other than through the Access VR contract with the potentially eligible students. We are partnering with another agency in Elmira. We said, hey, instead of us both going and knocking on doors, let's work together and be a little more strategic about it. And maybe some of those students could also, I don't know, maybe filter through into project search somehow. So that's all I can think of at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Jessica?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jessica Bellardine. As Lindsay mentioned, I work with our team here in Rochester, New York. We work at Jewish Senior Life. And I think one of the big things that we implemented this year that I think has really helped some of the contention between the mentors and interns entering into internships is that we actually created a skill building week in our transition weeks in between rotations, which facilitates learning in a smaller condensed area. So we break up our cohort into like 2 smaller groups, and then we have JSL staff come in and train on specific areas that they're going to need, or our team may take some of that training. That way, when interns are going into their rotation, it kind of addresses the things that they're going to need to know, but it's a little harder to facilitate once they're actually like starting the rotation within the business. So we've done things like transportation, or not transportation, but transporting seniors in wheelchairs, culinary skills, knife skills, prep work. That way they're getting kind of an idea of some of the things that they'll need, and a lot of that going over chemicals, what the colors mean, developing cheat sheets ahead of time. And then once they're in the internships, a lot of those areas are transferable, right? So they're transferable in our work world, but they're also transferable among different internships throughout the year. So that's something that we started this year. I think it's really helped our relationship building with the mentors. I've seen less frustration sometimes, right? When we're not there, but something needs to happen and they kind of just need to keep going in their day. And I've also seen it be a little smoother for the interns and take away some of the anxiety that often comes with starting a brand new internship in that area. So
That's a good idea for that week prep period.
That sounds like a fantastic conference session.
Mm.
Just saying, Jessica. You have till March 15th to put in an abstract. Just saying.
Brittany.
Hi, my name is Brittany Cushman. I'm a coordinator of employment here at Lexington. Our host business is SUNY Kobelskill, and we are in our first year. Overall, it's been a really great year. We've seen a lot of growth in our interns so far. They've been able to identify skills that they've learned and skills that they still need to learn. One tip or trick that I would like to share is to just be intentional when soliciting feedback from the department managers. So instead of just the generic, how are things going? How's so-and-so doing, right? Just in the moment like that, the answer's gonna be, oh, they're doing great. And then further down the road, you find out that the world's slowly falling apart, and it's very shocking, right? So to ask more intentional questions, what things does so-and-so still need to work on? How can I assist so-and-so? What do you need from me? So just to be very intentional when soliciting the feedback.
That makes a lot of sense. Candy?
Good morning. My name is Candy Genovese. I am from AHRC. Our host site is Staten Island University Hospital. We are currently in our 7th year. What we do every year is try to, for innovation-wise, what we do every year is try to develop new internship sites to benefit the students and our host site as well. And currently we're trying to expand our partnerships in order to serve as many students as possible, as well as develop more outcomes for the graduates.
Thank you, Candy. Danielle?
Good morning, I'm Danielle Paleshi. I am a Disability Resource Coordinator from Columbia Green, and I am here today representing New York Scion, which is a New York State DOL initiative to really focus on improving employment outcomes for people with disabilities across the state. So currently there are 27 DRCs. The program is expanding to cover New York City shortly, and we're covering 48 counties. So looking forward to speaking to people later in the breakout rooms.
I didn't know they were expanding to Manhattan. That's phenomenal.
Yes.
Yay.
Thank you.
These folks are a phenomenal resource. Please take some time to get to know them. They have lots of good information about benefit planning and other resources within the Workforce Center boards. Jennifer Everett.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Everett. I'm from Lifetime Assistance. I'm the Senior Coordinator of Community Employment. And we have our partnership with Wegmans, which is a great partnership, of course, and BOCES. I guess as far as a tip, I would say to just really utilize your steering committee. We are very blessed with a great group of people on our committee that we have a lot of open discussions, and so we don't always agree on things, but it's so helpful to hear other people's opinions, and then you might say, oh, maybe that's right, so just to utilize that and utilize everybody's strengths. I think that's so important, and keep that communication open. So we're talking about new plans for marketing or whatever that might be, just utilizing the whole team.
I think that's a good point, and that's kind of the beauty of Project Search, is really blending all of our different strengths and resources, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Dan?
Oh, finally, I'm unmuted. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Butler. I'm the Chief Equity Officer here at the City of Rochester. And we are partnered with a couple of agencies as well here locally with the Project Search. You know, what we do is we place them somewhere within our 14 departments when they're with us for 10-week intervals. And so we're excited about that. I'm also on with a couple of my colleagues as well. And maybe they can say hello. I don't see them, but I know they're there and they should be able to say hello.
Hi, I'm here.
There we go.
How are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here too. My name's Madison. I'm a human resource consultant at the City of Rochester as well. I'm working with Dan, our colleague Adrian, and a few other folks here over at the city. Just really focusing on, different partnerships and avenues that we can do to ensure that hiring and opportunities at the city are as equitable as we can make them. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you both for being here, City of Rochester.
Yeah, there's someone else here too. Adrian, say hello.
Adrian's here. I think she just pinged me that she was ready to refill her coffee. Her coffee
Oh,
was full,
okay.
so she
I
which
understand.
feels so fair.
I
So
have
she'll be back
mine
here
right
shortly.
here. But I just like to say my background also is working with persons with disabilities. I used to be project manager for home modification projects with the Center for Disability Rights and the Regional Independent Living Center. So I was a part of some projects from wheelchair ramps to automatic door openers to ceiling track systems, you name it. Even ran the loan closet where we dealt with a lot of different things from there, worked from wheelchairs to power wheelchairs to educators coming in looking for what, manipulatives and things like that from our local Al Siegel Center and others parts of New York State. So I have a little background with working with persons with disability. And a fun fact for me is that my first job was at the Monroe Developmental Center. I'm right out of high school. So yeah, so I'm familiar with OPWDD and getting some sign-offs for projects and making sure all my little ducks are in a row. So that's my little spiel for today. Glad to be here. I may be ducking in and out because I have a very busy day, so I'll be in and out. Just wanted to let everyone know, and it's great to meet everyone as well. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Are you guys sharing information about the city being a model employer yet?
We're actually working on that right as you speak. We're literally been working on that for the month of February, literally. So I believe it's about to be put up on our website because my immediate supervisor, his name is Fernand Shapiro, he's our assistant HR director, has been working diligently on that. So definitely. So we are definitely in there. And I believe that's a part of my diversity inclusion report as well that I will be finishing on Friday. It'll be a big release. Yes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we're about to start kind of launching that out from a city employee perspective as well and sharing a little bit of the work that we're doing, but more to come for sure.
Sounds good.
I'll do quick networking. I'm on the committee for the New York State model employer. And so if I can connect to one of you guys to see what you're doing and share that with that committee, that would be great.
Okay, dokie.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put our contact in the chat and then you can just reach out to us.
Beautiful.
Okay?
Thank you.
Fantastic.
All right.
Michelle.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Shapiro. I am one of the directors at AHRC New York City. And I get the pleasure of overseeing, coordinating all of our project search programs. We have 5 of them. I've started 10 years ago, so I've been with Project Search for 10 years. And we are, as Holly said, growing. So, what we're trying to be innovative is how do we diversify, job training, right, and job skills for the individuals we support. And we're very excited about expanding to another project search with Restaurant Associates. So it's a whole different area. We have 3 hospitals, a school, Pratt in Brooklyn, and an office building in Manhattan. And now we're going to have a culinary project search. So we're very excited. And also Northwell's expanding, and we're going to be in another hospital. So continuing to grow and provide more opportunities.
That's huge. Thank you, Michelle. Natalie. And team.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie McKay. I'm the instructor for Project Search from 721X School in the Bronx. We're at Montefiore Hospital. This is Carla Smith and Ada Rodriguez, paraprofessionals, and Vanessa is filling in for April Fields from HRC. And we're happy it went to Zoom because we weren't going to be able to make the upstate meeting. So we're happy that it went to Zoom. But I was just telling Marilee earlier that yesterday we had a professional development course with the whole school, and it was an afternoon PD. And I remember when I was a teacher in the main school building, Project Search was this thing I heard about, but I didn't really understand or know what it was. And I think that's still the way it's been for teachers in the school. So yesterday we had a PD explaining to the whole organization all the details about Project Search, and it was really informative. We got a lot of good feedback, I learned a lot about what they didn't know, and I'm really glad we had it. And I noticed on the agenda that we want to talk about marketing, and that was a really good way to market Project Search, and we want to continue just spreading the word because it's such a wonderful, phenomenal program. And Michelle and I've been talking, we just want to keep spreading the word and get more people involved. So thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here, and congratulations on that outreach. That's awesome. Cynthia.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm the instructor for the Project Search program out in Brooklyn. We're at Pratt Institute. Right next to me is Kelly Wiggins. She's our AHRC employment skills trainer. Just one of the tips and tricks that we're doing in terms of just expanding is we outreach to multiple schools within our borough. So this year we have about 2 other schools that are kind of linked with ours that we've taken students from. So one thing that we're doing to expand is every year our school does an internship fair where we invite families and other schools to come in so that they can learn about Project Search and our other worksite programs. But it's a heavy hit for us in terms of like inviting outsiders to come into our school and to learn about our program, because we do have like a whole display, and we have students from our current program that go there and talk about our program so that they can share out like what they're doing, what the requirements are, things like that. Parents get a lot of feedback from that and usually reach out to us for that. This year, we're also having one of our current students go back to her old school as a guest speaker to kind of share out for career day for her school so that we can kind of like spread the word in the school, even though they know of it, but it's good to have like an actual face to me. So that's how we're kind of spreading the word.
That's a great idea. Mary Ann.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Ann Duran. I work with Lindsay and Jessica at Heritage Christian Services in Rochester at our Jewish Senior Life Project Search. I was waiting to see what Lindsay and Jessica said. That's why I'm glad I had time to think of something else, because they both took what I was going to say. But I think that one thing we're doing this year, we've kind of learned over the past few years that we've had a Project Search, that we spend all year preparing these young people to enter employment. And while yes, and Jessica does an amazing job communicating with families and they're involved in employment planning meetings, but we wanted to focus a little bit more on preparing the parents for their child to become employed. So we are holding a session in May for preparing yourself for your child's employment, just to give parents an opportunity to come in and get some information from me as the director of employment on next steps and reminders about things like transportation, and give them opportunity to express any of their anxieties and fears, make sure that they are connected to other supports that they might need during that transition time. So we're looking forward to seeing how our first one of those sessions goes.
That also sounds like a good conference session, Mary Ann. I see that Natalie raised her hand.
Sorry, I heard Cynthia talking about her outreach, and it just reminded me that we also about 2 months ago, we've been doing, Michelle and I have been doing a lot of outreach to other schools, because with this new FAPE age, there's a little bit of discrepancy on who we can have in the program. So we've been reaching out to other neighboring schools, and a few months ago we had a really great informative session with job developers, assistant principals, unit coordinators. They came here to Montefiore. We showed them where we did the walk around. We did a whole project search presentation, and they were really impressed, and they had no idea that a program like this really was an opportunity. So since then, we actually had a bunch of students from neighboring schools attend our open house last week. We had an open house event where we shared even more about Project Search. It was really great that we're able to spread the word now to other schools and potentially, you know, steal some kids from neighboring schools to join our program.
That's super helpful. I know that recruitment is such a big topic, so it's really, I know that that's something that we'll talk about with the Eleanor's hybrid example as well. She really touts on that. Let's see, I don't think Nancy, did you go yet?
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Nancy Freyer. I'm the Director of Project Search Autism Enhancement and at New York Presbyterian Behavioral Health in White Plains. And we serve primarily young adults on the autism spectrum with neurodiverse learning styles. And I think one of the, I don't know if it's innovative, but one of the things we've been emphasizing this year is really the goal of employment. Because in the past, sometimes we've gotten burned with people coming to Project Search. They talk a good talk when they're, you know, applying to the program and getting into the program. And we find that the interns are really invested in and motivated to go to work. But I think Mary Ann was talking about the families might not really be prepared for at the end of this 10 months, you know, by July of 2025, because we're working on this cohort, they're going to be ready to go to work. And, you know, what does that mean for the families? What does that mean for the interns? So we've really ramped it up with our information sessions, really stressing it. We've been stressing it when we do our interviews and when we meet the candidates to really see, are they ready? Will they be ready to go to work at the end of the program? And if not, that's okay. They can reapply, they can come back another time, but we really want to maximize their readiness, their goal readiness of working.
Just setting that expectation early.
Very, like from the time they even start talking about it, like we're like, okay, well, it's all about going to work.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Doris. You're still muted.
Oh, sorry. Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm Doris Lopez from the New Bergen Large City School District, and we have a project search program at Crystal Run Healthcare. This is our second year fully operating the way project search is supposed to operate due to COVID. And I really don't have any innovative new ways. I think one of the things that we're doing differently this year is during our transition weeks, we're having the interns utilize their transportation. So we're setting up like field trips and we're doing mock interviews, and they're going to use their paratransit to actually schedule themselves from Crystal Run to get to those places.
That's great.
And they're using it even after the program to go to like Special Olympics. So that's something that we're trying. So every year, I think we just want to be a really good program. And so we're just working through it and trying to build on, trying to learn and make sure that we do things the way we can and do it better each time. So I'm excited to be here and to learn from all of you. So thank you.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, public transportation is one of those model fidelity components, making sure that students have access and are coming to program using public transit. Lisa.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa RBC. I'm the instructor for Project Search at New York Presbyterian Queens in Flushing. And with me, I have Katrina. She's a skills instructor for us from AHRC. And we have Jocelyn, who is going to be the skills instructor for the new one at Cohen's Children's Hospital. For us, it's been very challenging after COVID to get back to what the program was before, but we are determined and we are relentless. And but when I think about certain things for us, we are really focusing on having certain job descriptions changed, updated. We've had many conversations about it with the host site. So our students are currently getting employed in maintenance. So we've been trying to also have them be considered for employment in dietary and patient transport. So it seems like the conversation has been moving towards that the job descriptions can change. So it's not that they have to just have a high school diploma. It might be something that could be updated. So that's something. And along the lines of what Brooklyn shared and what Bronx shared, the same thing, all about recruitment, that we have been doing a lot of outreach to the community schools and to really fill them in. And so they're aware of what our program is, even if, because some of them, they leave the school at, was it 18, and then be great to get them over to our school, even in our full day work sites. And then the students who haven't had a lot of work experience then could then apply for Project Search. So we are all in on recruiting, it seems like, in all the boroughs. And I'm so glad to be here. We're glad to be here. Thank you.
Nice to see you, and thanks for your work in trying to get those jobs, say high school diploma, and trying to figure that out. It's like high school diploma and equivalent,
Especially when the departments themselves are so wanting our students. They say that they're incredible. They're such great workers. So yeah.
Well, maybe we'll have to have you on and talk about how you've advocate for these things in another meeting, too, to just describe how you've collaborated with a host business to kind of open up these opportunities. I think that would be wonderful. Madison?
Hi. Yeah, I had spoken before
sorry.
with Dan, City of Rochester, human resource consultant. Happy to be here.
I'm getting lost in all the tiles. Thank you. I think, Miranda, I haven't gotten to you yet, though, right? There you go.
Technical difficulties, but at the Arnett Health location. Oh, if you can even hear me.
You say Arnott Health?
Hopefully.
I'm going to jump on with Miranda. Miranda. She's still trying to talk. Miranda's one of our skills trainers with the Chemung and ARC, the ARC, and with Arnett Health in Elmira, New York.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Miranda. Dawn.
Good morning.
Hi.
Sorry, guys. My voice is bad. I've been out ill. The flu caught me, but I'm Dawn Haber. I'm from the Rochester Access VR office. I partner with the various project searches. I work with Heritage, so with Marianne and Jessica and pardon me, Lindsay, as well as with the City of Rochester Project Search, as well as the Arc of Monroe here in Rochester Adult Project Search associated with the Del Monte Hotel Group. So
nice to see you. Thank you for being here.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Lee. Maybe multitasking. I think Pam, we've already talked to. Danielle. Claire. Several folks have their cameras
Hello,
off.
this is Claire.
Hi, Claire.
Hi, I'm with Upstate Medical University up in Syracuse, New York. I work with Christine Gusky. She'll be signing in about a half hour.
Thank you for joining us. Nice to hear you.
Thanks.
Is anybody?
I'm here as well. I'm sorry. This is Lee.
Hi, Lee.
Hi, I apologize. We are at Northwell Hospital. We don't have great internet service here. But I'm the teacher at for Staten Island's Project Search. We have 7 interns this semester. We had a little trouble when COVID hit with getting families and people on board, but now it seems like we're getting back on track. But nice to see everybody and glad to be here.
Nice to see you.
Mary Lee, I'll
yes.
jump in.
Go ahead.
Hi, Mary, this is John Pope. I apologize. I am on audio only as I'm driving in from one of the sites that I supervise, so I have to keep my eyes on the road. But it's great to be a part of this meeting. I work for Erie Bossies. I oversee our Project Search program here, which is a collaboration between us, Aspire and Summit, which are our two agencies that we work with. We also work, our business partner is Beechwood Continuing Care. We've been doing this about 10 years. And what we found is this year we've really worked hard with our business partner to extend our rotations and move into another arm of the facility, which is more from skilled nursing to assisted living. And what we've developed are some rotations at admissions. We also have new rotations in their dining services program over there, as well as we actually do full apartment cleaning for the residents that live there. We've conducted a number of tours this year, and we've made a real conscious effort to touch base with some of the former interns, now employees of Beechwood, to meet us during the tour to talk about their experience with both incoming families and candidates, as well as teachers coming from a number of classrooms. We've really made an effort to get the information out to more classroom teachers from different districts. And in fact, this year, we've already worked with a couple of districts that we haven't traditionally in the past. So we're working hard to kind of move with marketing and recruitment, as I'm sure everybody is. So those efforts will continue.
Thank you for being here, John. Nice to hear you.
All right. I'm going to be transitioning to my office. So I'm going to be leaving once I arrive on site, and then I'll join you once again once I'm in my office safely.
Thanks, John. Does anybody else want to introduce themselves? Who did I miss? I missed Wendy.
Hello, I just came in. I'm in and out today, so I'll try my best to stay as present as I can. But I'm Wendy Newen. I'm the instructor at Project Search at Wegmans in Rochester, New York.
Nice to see you, Wendy. Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen Langton, and I am the Pre-Volks manager at ARC Ontario, and which Project Search falls under that umbrella. And we have a site at Isuma, and we have one at Finger Lakes Health in Geneva, which is currently taking a little break from after COVID. We haven't been able to quite get it staffed, but we're very positive that we are going to get some staff this year and reopen that site come fall. So we're very excited about that, trying to catch back up from that COVID era. I have just been within this position a little under a year, so I am going to soak up everybody's great information and tidbits that they can give me. I am glad to be here today.
Nice to see you, Kristen. Kat?
Hi, Marilee. It's Fernan.
Hey, Fernan.
Hi, Fernan Sapiro, Deputy Director of Human Resources here with my City of Rochester team. Glad to be here. And I'll be in and out throughout the day too.
Thank you for being here. Nice to see you. Who else am I missing? Kat?
Hi, I'm Kat Johnston. I'm the Senior Instructor of Project Search Autism Enhancement. I work with Nancy. I really can't add to anything she said because she says it better than I ever could.
Well, we are happy to see you and thank you for being here. Anybody else want to introduce themselves?
Hi,
Hi, my name is
Jenna.
Jenna, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. This is Jenna Amadeo. I'm from the Hungerford School on Staten Island. I'm the transition coordinator here, so I try to support our staff that are on site at Northwell, and then try to work with the families to try to first get them in the door and then get them out the door so that they have their next step of their plan going. And we're working hard. We're trying to keep everybody on track. It's been hard to get enough people in, but AHRC is working with us all the time to try to keep recruiting. So it's going pretty well, and it's nice to see everybody today. I'm wearing a couple of different hats here because we're a little short-handed, so I'm going to keep my camera off, but I'll be here.
Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us, Jenna.
Nice to see you too. Thank you.
Anybody else that I missed?
Hi, it's Bonnie Mazick. I am here with Monroe One BOCES Project Search Program with our host business site at Wegmans. You saw Wendy and Jennifer Everett before. So ditto with so many people, it's great for us to come together because I think we're all working with that recruitment. Right now, I think for us, we're focusing on, again, that transition from us being the feedback providers to working with the host business and expanding. But I think something that I hadn't heard that we're really working on is not just those work skills and that job placement, but all those extras that we provide that come from school and come from us as Project Search in terms of the emotional support, all those other things. So really linking and providing parents and our interns with those links of what they have available for social emotional support, transportation. We know we talked about last meeting has been an issue. So really taking a look at transportation, not just to work, but how am I getting to my bank and how am I getting to buy groceries if I'm living independently. So really the only thing I can add is really taking our steering committee and taking a look at how we're linking our students so they are ready, not just job ready, but independent ready.
Fantastic. Nice to see you, Bonnie. Anybody else? Okay, we are going to switch to Holly Opatic. She's going to give you a hybrid program preview.
All right, let me see if I can share my screen. Here we go. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Cool. Let's start. Okay. All right. So I don't know that all of you know this, but Marilee and I meet like on a monthly basis, and we really do chat about all the things that are going on in New York State and places where you know, we've heard from folks, you know, what are some issues, what are things that you're trying to conquer. Even just in your introductions, we've heard a lot about recruitment. And so I'm excited to hear that people are coming up with new ways and reaching out in different ways to folks. But what we wanted to really highlight this time was what we call at Project Search a hybrid model. And so I'm just going to go over a couple of slides with you. And basically what a hybrid model is it is exactly the same as the high school transition model, except that you're just adding young adults to the program. So if you have the ability to do that, and there's a couple of different ways how that can happen. And hopefully these next slides will give you those ideas and maybe, again, be able to, you know, inspire you and maybe have some conversations at your steering committee about how this could support recruitment efforts and add to your class size. I think the important thing to note is it's not like a different license or anything like that. You can actually switch from hybrid to high school, like year to year. So if you have a full high school class and you're a high school program, then you would be a high school program. If you know that, you know, by the end of May, you don't have a full program and you would like to recruit those adults, you could switch to hybrid. So that's something that's important to know. Often with the hybrid models, we are giving that priority to those high school students. So again, that's the basis of Project Search. We started as the high school transition program and then added the young adult model later on. And this is just a nice example of how you can kind of serve both worlds if you're capable of doing that. Again, I think this is really helpful for programs that maybe are run out of a BOCES that has an adult education component. Also for programs that are run from the CRP, where the CRP holds the license and provides the instructor. It's a great way to boost that recruitment and to boost the numbers of folks that you are serving. So like I said, it is the same structure. So there is really no difference in any pieces of the project search model. You would still have 3 unpaid internships. There is still the employability skills curriculum, and there's still full immersion in the host business. Really, the behind the scenes components of project search, particularly with the funding, is really the only difference that exists within the program model. So, and funding definitely varies. And so that's what's kind of tricky about the hybrid model. But again, we are always looking for programs to meet the costs so that they sustain the program. 100%, we know that project search is not a moneymaker, and it has never been intended to be a moneymaker, right? So, but what we want folks to do, and one thing I think that, I don't necessarily know what the reasoning is. I do think it's probably because of all the turnover that has happened in programs. But we hear more and more that, that programs are struggling to get the recruits, and that all the partners don't know that there are numbers that people have to have. So, yes, the host business should be able to say, this is the number of interns that we can support as a host business. And yes, the school district should say that this is the number of students that we need to support the instructor. And then the CRP should also have, weight in the game and say that we need X amount of people to support a skills trainer or more. And that those discussions really need to be happening at the steering committee level. And again, I think that if your steering committee has turned over, if you have a lot of new people, those might be primary parts of the program that people don't understand, that all your partners don't understand. And so again, we want to figure out ways and help programs become sustainable and stay sustainable so that they can enroll the number of interns that would meet their costs for the program. So, it's often based on eligibility of the interns and how you combine those resources. I know that Marilee and I have talked with OPWDD and Access VR, and both those agencies are on board with programs, looking at a hybrid model. So there isn't any kind of no-go from them. So as agencies and entities, they are supporting these efforts. And so again, it really does come down to the fact that each individual project search would have to figure out how they can make that happen. And I know that we have a video shortly coming up from Eleanor Evangelista in Bronxville, that they are running a successful hybrid program there that they started last year. So it is a combination of both school and OPWDD funding, and they figured it out. So we are hopefully going to be able to give you, I know Marilee, it's in my inbox, a one-pager of kind of like a step-by-step instructions of how you can pull this all together. So I apologize, I just didn't have the time in the last few weeks to get to it, but we will have that put out for the group so that you all can take a look at the opportunities that are available for you. So there's a couple of different options, right? So first and foremost, the school partner that employs the instructor would develop an agreement with the adult funding agency that serves the interns to receive those program fees. So adults typically aren't eligible for funding from a high school system. So in cases where they could re-enroll, that would be the first option, right? So are they capable of re-enrolling? And then in some rare cases, there may be those high schools that would say, you know, it doesn't really matter. We would have an instructor there with 4, with 6, with 8. If we have adults in there, it's not really going to matter. We are not going to ask for additional funding, right? And so that is the rare occasion. But also, as I mentioned, if you are a BOCES and you're an adult education provider, then you also might be able to draw down funds for young adults who could enter the program. And so this is also, as we mentioned, our thoughts on some of the ways that individuals who are turning 22 during the school year could continue to be supported. So again, if it's a hybrid program, that person could stay in program, and then just the funding would switch. So those are some things to think about as well. So again, in that funding option number 1, the skills trainers are hired typically by that community rehabilitation provider. And so they are getting funded through the vocational rehabilitation or long-term support agencies. So again, being able to utilize either PREETS funding for those individuals or OPWDD funds, again, however you are approved to provide those services. And then additionally, you know, we don't see this very often, but there are programs out there that do have private pay options for families. And so again, that would be something that would be worked out with the provider and that family, and provide them those options. Again, when we're talking about those individuals who may be aging out, that also could be an option. So if families want their young person to stay in program, is that a private pay option available through the skills training entity so that they can maintain and stay in the program? Funding option number 2 is that the community rehabilitation provider employs the instructor, the skills trainer, and the supported employment team. And so in this model, the community rehabilitation provider would create a fee-for-service agreement. And so the school district would pay a portion of like a tuition, and then Access VR or OPWDD would fund the skills training portion of the program. So again, you know, combining those dollars into one pot of money to support the whole team through Project Search. I think the biggest question we get about this is, what do the instructors require? We know for high school programs, the instructors are required to have a special education background. So, excuse me, sorry. And depending on your state regulations, so again, if it's primarily serving high school students, they may have to have that special ed requirement, but that would really be up to your state requirements. And so again, with a hybrid program, you may not need an instructor that has a special ed background. I can't speak to what the laws are for New York State. I just know that in states where there are hybrid programs, some states, they do not require it, other states do. So like for Pennsylvania, they require that anybody who is in special ed has to have a special ed instructor, even if they're receiving services outside of the district. And that's that is one of the reasons we don't have many hybrid programs in the state of Pennsylvania, is because it's harder to hire someone with that degree from a community rehab provider's perspective. So again, we're not lessening any kind of restrictions. Folks who are providing services through the adult model, those instructors are not required to have a special ed background. So again, it's kind of just, again, melding those populations together and your rules together to figure out how to serve these populations. The program should be the exact same. So like I said, we're not changing anything about the program. So 5 days a week, 9 months, 36 weeks, if you want to look at it that way. And the program should begin in the fall and end in the spring. So you want to mirror as much as you can the typical school year. We know that in the state of New York, most programs start in September and end in June, and so we would want to stay within that same time frame. One thing that we see in a lot of hybrid programs are, stipends. And so it is a nice way to recruit, and oftentimes for those individuals who have exited high school, that stipend is an incentive to attend. And so we just want to remind everybody that we do support stipends, not wages. Julia and Marilee and I just had a conversation last week because we got excited. Marilee and I got excited because we heard some news about maybe potentially paying for internships through OPWDD funding, and then it was wah, 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 it's wages. So we cannot do that in Project Search, okay? So we cannot pay wages in Project Search. We really need it to be looking like a stipend. And so that we are reimbursing people for food, gas, whatever that is, right? But they cannot be looked at as earning a wage for the time that they are training for. Okay, so that's where there's that difference that's there. And so that stipend would, go to maintain any type of personal costs that are associated with attending Project Search. And again, that sometimes is a reason why folks don't attend, that they feel that they maybe don't have the ability to have, lunch every day or transportation costs every day or whatever it is. And we also just want to make sure that, that the interns and families understand that that stipend is not being paid by the employer, right? So even if it is, we maybe would say, have it be a pass-through or something like that so that families understand that this is a difference and they don't expect that person to continue on in employment with the host business. So this is just an example, and this is Wisconsin. Wisconsin has a lot of hybrid programs, and they have their fee structure and everything that is really outlined very well on their website. And so their VR system funds the skills trainer position and some other expenses. The long-term care, so like the OPWDD system, funds the non-high school interns. And then some of that other money goes towards the instructor position and other expenses such as transportation. And they use that community pre-voc money. Okay, so again, we have an example for you from Eleanor, so how she's kind of worked it out at the Bronxville locations. But again, these are examples that exist out there. So if you need other ways to maybe think about how you could possibly do this within your Project Search site. And these next pages are just those links, right? So it's just showing some information. This is our Project Search 101, that link to the Academy. So if somebody needs a refresher on that, or if you're trying to talk about Project Search as a hybrid program to folks, here's that link. Then there's also the fact sheet from the U.S. Department of Labor. So again, understanding the wage and hour pieces and that stipend piece and what we are held to as Project Search. And that's one of the reasons why the employability skills curriculum is so important, because we need an education component. So again, whether you're an adult program, a hybrid program, or a high school program, for it to fall within the wage and hour internship program, there needs to be that educational component, a part of Project Search. And then there's the Wisconsin Project Search website. And like I said, it is really transparent. Everything is outlined for you, even so much down to the money and the dollars and where those are allocated to. So it's a really, I think, robust website to kind of gain, you know, like I said, some additional knowledge or thoughts, or even other things that maybe you haven't thought about as incorporating into your project search and how you could do that, whether or not you're choosing to do a hybrid program or not.
Hey, Holly, there is a quick question in the chat. It says, one of our questions we have is, would the adult attend the classroom portion, and how would that work if they're not enrolled in school? Our business partner does not have space for classroom time. It's done at BOCES.
Okay, wait, say that again. Say that last part again.
Yeah, the classroom isn't done in the host business. It's done at BOCES, which is the school. The classroom section.
Oh, okay, well.
It seems like they'd have to advocate for a host business classroom in order to have.
I just didn't want to say that right.
It changed after COVID. They didn't have the extra space for us. We used to meet like in their, you know, one of their break rooms, or like in the cafe in an area. But now we've asked repeatedly, and they do not have anything that they can designate for that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I know, I think Bonnie is, I don't know if Bonnie's still on, but she she's been one of the people that has been advocating for the classroom space at Wegmans.
Yeah, and so I think, well, I guess I'm not great on the spot. I am usually a ponder about things, so I apologize for being a little tongue-tied right now. And we do think, so one thing is, first and foremost, not having a site on site within the business is not a deal breaker, right? So we already know that. I'm looking at Doris right now. Doris did a fabulous job. She's somebody I talk about all the time in my trainings. They have a Dunkin' Donuts that's in the parking lot of their host business, and they have training week and transition week and orientation in the Dunkin' Donuts conference room. So, I mean, there's ways to be creative, right? Instead of using the host business. I would say that utilizing the school district does kind of take away from that immersion of project search. And so maybe we should have a conversation offline on some other ways maybe to be creative and thinking about that classroom piece. And especially if you would be looking at a hybrid program, I think that's conversation with the BOCES. Again, if the BOCES is an adult provider, education provider, maybe that's not a big deal. But I would say from the standpoint of project search, we would want you to try to figure out something different than being at the school.
Right. And sorry, this is Bonnie. My camera's not working. I don't know what happened. I transitioned from my phone once I got out of my car to my computer, and who knew there'd be more issues on the computer than the phone. So sorry about the no camera, but so Jennifer was saying, I think I would love to have an offline conversation, or if other people have resources or links, because yes, the transportation becomes huge. It becomes an adult, like who's supervising, who's responsible if something were to happen. Like there's so many logistics, but something we definitely want to, if we want to serve that community, and certainly enhance our program with that and get back to where it was a number of years ago. So if anyone else is interested, I'd love to have like a side meeting just to see how we can enhance other young adults through project search.
Jennifer, I was thinking as you were talking, just knowing the area, there might be worth conversation of seeing if you could use the town library or part of the town facilities for the classroom. They're close by, and they might be great partners to talk with.
Yeah. We've also started conversation, Jennifer, I haven't shared this with the committee yet, with our, the JCC, or Jewish Community Center. We might be moving some of our classes in, and we talked about moving to a more centralized site and location outside of the school district.
Yeah. And I mean, I look with some of the programs that we work with, like that's a great suggestion, Marianne. Like we would say, is there a library? Is there something close by, right? Is there a church that's not using their social hall every day? You know, is there something that's close to the host business's location that the, you know, interns could walk, you know, to the host business for, you know, from class and back and forth and such. So yeah, I'm happy to have a follow-up conversation with anybody who is thinking about this. And you're right, there are a lot of logistical things, and that's the stuff that you all have to take into consideration when you're thinking about this. And so, like I said, we are just kind of giving you this first blush. If you want to have further conversation, definitely please reach out to both myself and Marilee, and we can schedule some time.
And I did ask Eleanor, Eleanor has the only hybrid program in the state, and she is willing to connect with you on her process, and if you have any real specific questions about her experience. So our one pager, which I think I already sent, if not, I'll send a follow-up email after with the recording, but I have her email address on that one pager. So, any other questions before we switch to Eleanor's presentation about their experience running a hybrid program in the state? Okay, I guess we can do a switcheroo.
I stopped sharing.
Okay, perfect. All right. Oh, okay, let me stop this for a second too. Okay, can you all still hear me? Okay. So Eleanor, the reason why she can't be here today is she is on jury duty. So she was willing to make a recording and share it with us today. And again, she's willing to be outreach too. But yeah, I was just kind of unlucky. Here we go.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eleanor Evangelista, and I am the coordinator for the Westchester Institute for Human Development's Project Search blended model at New York Presbyterian Westchester Hospital in Bronxville, New York. My goal today is to share some of the info on the model that we run. And my apologies for not being there, but unfortunately civic duty calls and I got called in for jury duty. So I do apologize, and I hope I can share some information that could be helpful to some of you. So the Community Support Network is my area at Westchester Institute for Human Development. Just a little shameless plug right now. We provide services such as resources, training, direct services, and support and guidance to families, schools, agencies, and individuals themselves that on disability-related issues and topics. We are one of the lead resources for individuals with disabilities, and we deliver all types of services, support services to these individuals and their families. So one of our newest services, obviously, is the pre-vocational service that WID is providing via Project Search in partnership with New York Presbyterian Westchester Hospital, Ability Beyond, our job developer, OPWDD, as well as Westchester School Districts. So New York Presbyterian Westchester Hospital, formerly known as Bronxville, along with us, we received our search license in March of 2022. The location is ideal for us to have started as it's a small town, a nice safe area in Lower Westchester, surrounded by a bunch of local school districts. We are fortunate to have a liaison at the hospital, Moira Lillis, who oversees volunteer services as well as manages all other intern programs that go on at the hospital. She has a pulse on everything that goes on in the building, which is really helpful to us, obviously. So from what I've understood, a lot of the categories in New York State of search providers vary among the sites, but for the most part, only specific school district individuals working at a community location is one form of a search model. Only OPWDD funded adults that have exited high school is another form. And then there's additionally some models that may be specific to a certain disability, such as autism. I know some examples in our local area. Montefiore Hospital, New Rochelle, works directly with New Rochelle High School only. And then our friends at Arc of Westchester also run a program at NYP Behavioral Center in White Plains, and that is adult only as well as autism only. I believe it's known as the Autism Enhancement Program. So our model is considered a blended model, and you may be able to figure out why. It's based on who we serve as well as a few other items, but who we serve are high school students referred by school districts in their last year of IDEA eligibility, plus the post-IDEA young adults age 19 to 26 with OPWDD eligibility determined. We are not disability specific. We have had interns with IDDD, autism, ADHD, as well as some individuals that have varying medical syndromes. Another way that we are blended rather, is who we partner with. So we do partner with OPWDD for those adult individuals that we mentioned that are no longer under IDEA, as well as various school districts. So in 2023, we had worked with 2 different districts. This year, we have 6 students from 5 different districts. So I think that the numbers will continue to alternate and fluctuate depending on the numbers of each graduating class, if you want to call it that. We right now are working with, for example, different geographical areas such as Tuckahoe in southern Westchester, all the way up to Katona in northern Westchester. So for those agencies that want to expand their waiver services, there are some steps to follow. We were able to expand versus apply for waiver services because we already had that approval. So there's some steps here that you will actually be receiving from Marilee, I believe. We put together a 1-pager, but it starts out with a letter of request to this email address. And then there's various information bits that you must provide to them. The need for the service that you're providing, the counties in which you're planning to provide them, a list of your executive staff, your board of directors, etc. Once the request is reviewed, then a process letter will be sent to your agency. And then after a few weeks, hopefully 4 to 6 weeks, we did receive ours, so hopefully you get yours, and you have to complete a new program design summary form. This is an idea of what it looks like. So if you take a quick look, you can see that it's basically your information that is needed to provide them the information they need to give you approval to go forward. So again, as you can see, Pathways is there, site-based Prevoke is there, and for Project Search, the community-based Prevoke line is there as well. So some pros and cons of our model. So we'll start with the pros. We open our program enrollment to a wider audience, having it open to both adults as well as school district. There is no pressure on a partner school district to provide a certain number of students from their district to keep the program viable. I don't need 6 or 7 students from one district, which is kind of impossible when you think about it, to have all students that are exiting in their final year be able to meet that number each year. Again, of our 6 students, 4 are single students coming from a single district. Our interns are introduced to new connections, not just from the same school or the same age, or also from some of their social activities. They may already know people. This way, it allows for more expanded friendships and socialization amongst different interns, I'm sorry. Our internship departments are introduced to individuals that possess various strengths and abilities, as well as various challenges. So it's a learning experience for all involved, and it also helps prepare them for later on and the obvious different classes that would be coming in each year. Of course, there's also financial benefits as well. Some cons: paperwork. So initially, there's obviously additional work to become an OPWDD service provider, or in the case of WID, we had to apply for an expansion of services, requesting pre-vocational services, for example. There's additional outreach legwork. So not only reaching out to your contacts at care coordination agencies for your adults, but also to various school districts throughout a logical geographical area. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we have students coming from as close as Tuckahoe or Bronxville, and as far as Katona or Chappaqua coming into Bronxville. So as far as legwork continues, you have to do open houses or information sessions to get the word out that you are open for assessments and for students to apply. Additional administrative work, lots of documentation, of course. So hopefully you have a good business office in place in the agency that you work for, but the additional administrative work regarding school districts, you have to build out your contracts. So each district has a different process, a different business office procedure. For example, there is the monthly billing. There are various New York State Ed requirements for each category of students, such as a CDOS student or a skills credential student. And then there's various requirements based on the IEP for each student. You have to attend certain meetings based on, again, what the need is for the school district. They may just require reports. It all depends on the specific districts that you are working with. And then there's obviously scheduling issues. Some may need to get some services at school. They have to come in for their classes in the morning with us. So some things need to be worked out, but typically it's not that difficult. And then obviously additional administrative work if you're taking on OPWDD funded individuals. So once approved to provide those services, initiating items for each individual, such as the approval for waiver services and the number of units needed, the notice of decisions, updated life plans, staff action plans for your program. During the program, you have to do daily checklists and monthly responses for each individual, the annual pre-vocs, assessments rather, reviews of staff action plans and life plan meetings. And then of course the financial piece, the monthly billing. So Eleversity trainings are also recommended for staff, but speaking of staff, you'd like to hope that there are some staff members that can assist. It's not just going to fall on one person. We again at WID have a strong business office and strong staff, so we can share some roles as needed. We all know how complex the process of OPWDD is. However, we were fortunate enough to connect with Julia Kelly, who guided us in the beginning, as well as Patricia Begnali, who assisted us with the process that you'll actually see on that information session, information sheet from Mariella. So here I have a video that I would love to share with you. It's a video of our program filmed by Dan Abib, who's an Emmy-winning producer. He made this video for us last year, so I hope you enjoy it. It's only about 3.5 minutes long.
Each and every one of us wants to live, work, socialize, and be valued members in our community. At New York Presbyterian, the foundation of our mission is a respect credo. And within that credo, we value every role, everyone's opinions count. And we celebrate all of our diversity and all of our abilities. And I think this really aligns well with the mission of Project Search.
Project Search is a year-long program for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities that we are doing in collaboration with WID, Westchester Institute for Human Development, and our third partner, Ability and Beyond. It's a job skills program, so students come to us, interns come to our site and learn on-the-job training in various departments throughout the hospital. They spend 13 weeks in the first rotation, and then second rotation, 13 weeks, third rotation, 13 weeks. We are rooted in Westchester in our community. And so the students or the interns that we're looking at that are coming to the program are from a lot of our community high schools. There's 9 individuals in the program right now, and they are dispersed throughout the hospital in food service, housekeeping, transport, materials management. We have one in radiology, cancer center, and we are working with the students to ensure that they are ready for employment post-program. And so in my role, I had to go out to the departments after leadership gave the support and ask these departments, would they take an intern? Would they be available to support the program?
It's one thing y'all got them here. The second thing, we assist you guys.
And it was just incredible, like that all of these departments came on board, and then the trickle down factor went right to the frontline staff who's actually working with the interns, and they have just, embraced it 100%.
Some of our interns, particularly one that was working with our pharmacy, was so motivated and really enjoyed his experience in the pharmacy that he is going back to get a certification as a pharmacy tech. And this would really create an opportunity for him for long-term employment.
I decided to apply the Project Search because I wanted to get a new job and become more independent and maybe live on my own. I would get up early in the morning, get breakfast, and I would walk up to the classroom to get ready for the first class in the morning to learn about safety and hazards, money skills, social skills. And then I would be going down to the internships, which was the pharmacy and kitchen, and then on my break, I would have lunch with those friends, and then continue it again after lunch is over. My favorite part about Project Search, it was the pharmacy, because I love checking expiration dates, helping the pharmacists, and labeling medications. When people ran out of EpiPens, I helped them build out new kits of epinephrine to save their lives, and that means I'm a hero. The next step in my education is my pharmacy tech certification. I hope to become a pharmacy tech or a pharmacist, one of those.
Nationally, Project Search has a 75% employment rate post-program compared to a 20% rate, overall for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that's certainly a metric that we are hoping to hit.
Project Search just provides with so much value. At New York Presbyterian Westchester, we have a very diverse workforce where we have many different roles and responsibilities with many different talents. And the interns from Project Search bring us so much enthusiasm, so much dedication that it's really made our workforce that much better. I'd like to thank the Westchester Institute for Human Development and Project Search for providing us with such a meaningful platform to make a difference in our community. On behalf of New York Presbyterian Westchester, we are looking so forward to the future partnership.
Oops. Sorry about that. All right, let me pull my little face up here. So anyway, I hope that all of you have the same support and enthusiasm from all of your host businesses as we are fortunate enough to have from NYP. I think you see it in that video. Moira is just, like I said, the most amazing liaison to have. And every department that we work with has so many natural supports, and we are so fortunate to partner with them. So again, a little shameless plug, as you may have noticed, that young man in the video is my son, Paul, who hopefully will be passing his certification for pharmacy tech in July. So I'll get back to you about how that works out. So again, thank you for your time. I'm sorry I couldn't be live there today. But if you have any questions at all, you can reach out to me at any point. I don't think that the information that I shared is not something that you could have figured out on your own, but it usually helps to speak to someone about how these processes take place. So please reach out at any given point, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Take care.
All right. I think it was really helpful to see hybrid in practice. And I'm so grateful for her contact, and please feel free to reach out to her. Again, I'll send out that one pager, and which will have her contact information. And if you're interested in expanding into a hybrid program, then feel free to reach out to any one of us or Eleanor as well. Does anybody have any initial questions from all that information? There's just a couple of comments in the chat, and it said great video from Julia Kelly, and then Faith said loved hearing from Paul, especially how much work he's getting and helping other people. Julia has a quick comment. Go ahead, Julia.
Just something very, very silly. She had mentioned site-based pre-voc. They're using community-based pre-voc funding. We are not expanding site-based pre-voc. So just a clarification, but they're using community-based pre-voc anyway. For some reason she quickly mentioned site-based. So that's not a service that we're expanding. But it's not needed for this model anyway. And then just a heads up, probably almost a year from now, the Eleversity classes for staff will be required in community-based pre-voc. They're not now, so she was 100% right. They're encouraged. But just a heads up, like in about a year, they're going to be required classes, most likely. And that was it. Otherwise, it was great.
And Julia, quick question. Did you have any input as far as the stipends? I know that there's some possibility in certain points for food or transportation. Did you want to comment on that at all?
Yep, it's just Medicaid. There's nothing that kind of prohibits it, but you have to be pretty judicious with it with Medicaid. You have to make sure you're very, very clear with the Department of Labor regulations about what's allowed. And so it really literally is just reimbursement for food or travel. And there's not a lot that's allowable. So and our Pathway to Employment program actually says no stipends. So that service you might have to be careful with.
Okay, thank you very much.
I mean, Pathway to Employment, it means more for the working and the wages, no stipends for the wages. I'm sure you can give people bus passes, things like that, but that one just is a little bit clearer in the language about it.
Thank you, thank you. Marianne, I saw you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I actually, I'm sorry to my friends from Access VR on the call, but I do wonder if there's opportunity for conversation with Access VR through some of the wage reimbursement opportunities through the CRS and, contracts. So just something to think about, that there could be something there.
Did anybody from Access want to respond?
Yeah, there's absolutely opportunity for that there. Everything for us is individualized, case by case. So we try to avoid giving a blanket statements. That being said, we do absolutely have a service for wage reimbursement. So it's certainly an option.
And Faith Baker asks, is Pathway to Employment being used anywhere in Project Search? Does anybody know the answer to that question?
So this is Christine. Right now what we're doing is we're focusing on the adult waiver services that are affiliated with Project Search to determine exactly which waiver services are aligned. I don't want to say, it's very unlikely that Pathway to Employment is aligned, and if it is, it's very limited in scope.
Lisa, you asked if you can have access to that video. I will ask to see if we can share that all out to you.
Yeah, you can, Marilee. They had sent that to Project Search National.
Oh, great.
But it's not a YouTube format, and so that's why we can't get it on our website.
Okay. I can
So,
probably share the link that she sent to me.
right,
So
yeah.
I'll add that to the list of things, the post-meeting packet.
I just want to follow up too and just be really clear about the whole wage issue. Like, yeah, it's really, you got to be really careful. That's all I would say. Because we don't want to confuse people with wages, stipends, and payment for their training, right? So just whatever, I'm not saying don't look at it. I'm just saying be careful about it. That's all.
Because you might, they might cross over the labor laws, right?
Correct, right.
Yeah. Any other questions? I would like to give folks maybe like a 5-minute break. Would that be okay? I know it's shortening the break a little bit, but also please feel free to take care of yourselves. But let's take a 5-minute break before we get into the model fidelity overview components. Okay, so we will be back. Oh, 10:47, 48-ish. Okay. We'll see you in a few minutes. There's lots of different ways that we can use the model fidelity, whether it's in our steering committee meetings, our strategic planning. So how do we keep improving and re-energizing the program and kind of like a feedback loop? We can use this sheet to really, hopefully it can be overwhelming if you're looking at the whole sheet, but you really, narrowing down, finding some focus points and like hitting them year after year, trying to add to that model fidelity. And I do want you to know, so these are meant to be a self-review, but also Holly has the capability, if your program wants to, you can purchase a facilitated model review, which can be very, very helpful. And Holly can talk more about that. But just wanted you all to know what was available. So thanks, Holly. I'll let you take it from here, and thanks for sharing the good information.
Okay. So let me just piggyback before I forget about what Marilee just said. I'm going to review with you today the self-review document. It is 12 pages. It gets longer when you add information into it. So yeah, it can be pretty daunting. But she's right. If you can break it down, if you can utilize it with your steering committee use it in other operations meetings, it's definitely beneficial. She's also right in the fact that I can facilitate that process. And I would really encourage you, if you're a program that has existed, I would say for probably 5 years or more, a facilitated review could be very helpful. And so I think what we've seen is there are a lot of programs that are doing their thing and certainly have been doing it for a while. So I heard of a couple programs just on here today, like Don Pope at Beechwood saying, we've been doing this for 10 years. And sometimes, from the day to day and what it looks like and how we get into our routine of project search, we might forget about some of those components. And I can say that certainly the reviews that I have facilitated have started great conversations with the partners that I don't think would have happened otherwise. And so, unfortunately, I will say there is a charge. And so, but that can happen in 2 ways. And so I want to explain what those 2 ways are. So first, we can do a virtual review. It's not the greatest. And spending 3 hours online with me, it can be a little daunting. But I do think that having everybody together, having somebody like myself who is, I guess
Neutral.
a third party, yes, neutral, right? I was like a third party, neutral, right? So there's no feeling, there's none of the kind of angst or anything that can exist amongst the partners. You know, I'm just there to kind of read the statement, talk a little bit about it, and ask questions. And I do think it is really beneficial. I also think it's great because the form allows for feedback, right? And for statements as to how you could put that into action. And so that's really wonderful. So being able to have that conversation and create those things together, again, with a facilitator, I think also too, you know, you all know what you know, and you operate within your own silos that exist because of your agencies, your business, your, you know, your school district, whatever. I can bring in that kind of national perspective and say, hey, we know teams that do this. Would this be something you could do? So it's really a great way to brainstorm and bring new ideas to your program. So that is a virtual way. So 3 hours time with me and your whole steering committee, going through the document, and then I write up the document and I send it back to you with all the suggestions as a part of that. An in-person review is a little more detailed. And so what would happen is that I would kind of interview every partner. And so some of that would happen separately. Some of that would happen in like a focus group. And my visit would entail 2 days. And so that first day would be those kind of scheduled interviews, conversation, walking around the project search program, seeing things in action. And then I go back to my hotel room that night and I write up the report. And then that next day we meet together and walk through the report and add to the plans. So we would say, what are those next strategic steps? So I think you could probably see that there's value in both of those options. Obviously, the virtual option is cheaper than the 2-day visit. And so again, you know, if folks have a desire, we certainly can have conversation about that for each individual program.
Hey, Holly, would you mind just saying how much each of those cost, and then
you were going to ask me that.
Well, that way people can plan for their budget, you know, and they
No.
can ask.
I'm really non-committal because I'm unsure from the business office. I believe that our rates tend to change in March, and so I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can say I know for sure that the virtual is $1,500. So that I do know. But I anything with our travel, I can't commit to what I say right now. So
okay, thank you.
I apologize for that. All right. So does anybody have any questions on that before we start to go through the document? No, you're all like, just find me some money and I'll have you come out, right? All right. Okay, so let's share the screen. Okay, I'm screen sharing, but I can't see the screen. Well, that doesn't make any sense. What the heck? Huh. Okay, there we go.
We can see it.
All right, awesome. That is just so strange. Okay, here we go. Perfect. All right, so the Model Fidelity self-review is located in the member portal. It is under the essential documents. So there are 2 documents in there regarding the Model Fidelity. One is just the straight Model Fidelity components. It is a Word document. It just lists out what those components are. The second is this Model Fidelity self-review. And again, I've edited this form. I took off the header and all those types of things, which you absolutely can do. So remember that any document that is in the member portal is editable by you. You can't change the model fidelity components, right? So you can't change that, but you could take the header off and change the margins and do anything you need to work with this document. I think this first part is pretty self-explanatory. It's just the date, the program name, the type of program that it is, who is the license holder, when was the license enacted, your program start date, why are you reviewing it? What's the core reason for the review? Who is the reviewer, and then who is your project search consultant? And then who's attending? So you would list all your partners here. And then you would gather your data from the past 2 years. So you'd have your current year information and then your prior 2 years information. This is really a snapshot of your summary page in the member portal. Although we know that most folks keep their own data, and the summary page on the member portal, here's a little sidebar so everybody understands that. That summary page is the data that is input on your due date. So for most programs in New York, your outcomes data are due at the end of March. You graduate in June, it means it's due at the end of March. So whatever data you have in there at the end of March is what is always going to be shown on your summary page. So even if folks get more jobs or someone loses their job or anything like that, that page is static. It stays the same. What doesn't stay the same is the information that you input later and how you can view that information in the interns tab. But that summary page does stay static. So just be, aware of that when you're pulling data and looking at it. All right. So each section is broken down like this. So it talks about what is the core model fidelity component. We have 6 core model fidelity components. And then under each 6 component, it is broken down into 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, in some cases up to 5 different objectives. And then again, details of how those objectives are obtained. What we don't want you to do when you do this review is 70 to 100% of each graduating class has achieved competitive employment within 9 months. Yes, check, done. Okay, we're good on that one. Well, we would like you to have more discussion, right? So if you're at 70%, maybe the discussion is, how do we get to 90? Right? Is that an option? Or if you're at 70 and you've been at 70, what's happening? Does that mean you've lost 2 people during the year? So we want you to really kind of go in and delve a little deeper. Don't just read the statement and then check the box, right? That's not what this is meant to do. We want you to have conversation amongst each individual item. So we know, okay, well, I can't quiz you now. I was going to say, okay, who can tell me what are the project search competitive employment benchmarks, but it's on the paper, so you would be reading it. So, but anyway, are you meeting those 16 hours? Are they in integrated settings? Are they non-seasonal employment? Are they, oh gosh, I've lost the last one. Earning a competitive wage, right? So, are those things happening? And again, if one of those things is consistently not happening, taking the time to have that question, evaluate that question, and then again, make plans. What are the things that we can do to address this as we move forward? So when we look at this, and I'm not gonna go through every single one, but I do think that this transition to employment is really one of those things. that we're talking about at the national level, and we're talking an awful lot about it. I mentioned at the beginning of our introductions that we as a team are meeting together more frequently than we have in the past. And one of the reasons is we really want to get back to project search basics, right? And I think Marilee and I have been talking about this since we've both come into these roles. You know, both of us were part of project search before we were part of the national team as a coordinator and a consultant. And the things that Marilee and I learned about project search aren't necessarily things that new teams are learning about project search. And so we really want to make sure that we're getting back to those fundamentals of what is project search. And really, these next couple of slides are a huge part of that. And we get in trouble with the language that we use. And so I think you just have to be creative and thoughtful about this. So we understand that most CRPs have somebody called a job developer or an employment specialist or something like that. Basically, when you look at this first one, we're just saying that there is somebody who is part of that project search team that is taking responsibility for coordinating all the employment efforts that are going on. Okay, so that means that during the year, that could be the instructor, right? So during the program year, so maybe from October to May, the instructor is the person who's coordinating those efforts. And then he is passing that baton to somebody in the CRP. Also, we understand and we know that CRP engagement is a choice and people can change that provider. We totally get that. But we know that 90% of the time, our folks are choosing the same provider. So plan for that. Make those connections early and utilize that provider and that person and invite them early into those meetings. So even though the instructor may be coordinating it throughout the program year, that person from the CRP who is going to take over should be invited to those employment planning meetings starting in January. And we also should be utilizing that plan for employment. I forget who it was. It was from my COBA skill team who said, be intentional with your questions that you ask your managers and mentors, but be intentional about the plan. We know the plan changes. We totally understand that we are working with young adults with disabilities who haven't had a lot of exposure before. And so we know that that employment plan is going to change. We totally get that. But that's one of the reasons why we want you to use the plan so that you're recording how that plan is changing. So you're seeing how that young person is developing. And then you can pass that information on to the person who is going to help them next, right? So again, don't hold it in and don't share it. Pass that information along. Specifically for those folks who are beginning the third internship and maybe don't have prospects for employment, what does that plan look like? So if somebody is getting hired by the host business, who is in charge of that? Again, that should be that on-site team. I know that oftentimes the instructors from the school district are leaving. They have summertime off, and that's completely okay. But should that skills trainer who is assigned to that project search site be the person who is following up with the person who gets a job at the host business? Absolutely. 100%. We do not want to see folks come in who are not a part of that project search program. We don't want to see 5 different job coaches come in to the host business supporting folks who went through project search. We want it to be that same single point of contact and that staff. People who go out into the community, that's a whole different story, and we get that. But when it comes to that host business, it really does need to be seamless, organized, and a single point of contact. And we want to make sure we have that plan. And then that's the same for the plan for what happens if people don't have a job after 60 days after graduation. When are you talking about that? When do you know that? These are great topics for your last employment planning meeting. Again, passing that baton, preparing the parents, talking about who's going to be calling home now. How are we going to be getting in touch with folks? Are there ways that we can connect to people, right? Can you plan that out ahead of time? Can you say, we're going to meet the second Tuesday, of every month at the Panera, and you're going to bring me job leads, right? And that's going to be the responsibility of that intern as they're moving out of program. We need to keep them engaged, and we need to have a plan for that. And this, I think for anybody on the call, if you're having those steering committee meetings, this is a perfect topic for right now. What is that going to look like? Engage your leadership so people understand and know and have that plan as folks are exiting the program. And then there's that follow along support. So this goes back to that theme too of getting back to basics. When Project Search was first founded, it was about training, employment, and follow along. Those three things. Some folks who have been a part of the program for a long time, might remember that three-legged stool. And that was a graphic that we showed over and over and over again. So that Project Search, the program, was supported by training, employment, and follow-up services. And so again, what are we doing to ensure that those follow-up services are a part of Project Search? Are we ensuring that our folks have those services if they are eligible for them? And if they are eligible for them, are we, again, utilizing the same staff, the same people who know who they are, they are used to in supporting those efforts to obtain, maintain, and retain employment? So this too can be a really great topic of conversation. I think at the next couple, if these aren't things that you guys are doing, the next couple of steering committee meetings really could be focused on that follow along support. And if it's something you can't accomplish in this next year, start the year by having these conversations, figuring out how to make this happen within your program. So then you can see that as you move along, every section has this action plan. So you start off with comments. So the comments that your partners make as you're talking about and discussing the points above. You talk about what your program strengths are. Oftentimes the program strengths are things like we have a really solid team. We work together. Folks are cohesive. What are the critical issues? I'm going to say kind of blanketly across the state of New York, the critical issues are outcomes. As a state, if we look at it across the board, it's about 50%. So, maybe your individual program is doing really well. But if we're at 50%, probably we're all under, right, the marker that we should be. So that would be how we're addressing that. How are we going to get those folks employed? What are we doing? How can we use that recruitment effort, right? And then what are those strategic planning goals? And again, strategic planning, it sounds, I don't know, like a lot. You hear the strategic plan, you oftentimes think of a strategic plan for your agency, and that's something that's 2 to 3 to 5 years, usually involves a consultant and a lot of meetings. We're really just saying, what's your goal? What do you want to do? And then those next steps, how are you going to obtain them? All right. So if your steering committee says, we want to reach the 70%, right? Doesn't have to be 100 right off the bat. If you're currently at 50, 70 would be an obtainable goal in the next 2 to 3 years. So that's maybe your goal. And then you write the next steps. What do we think we could do to improve that? And again, that's going to look different for every team. It's going to depend on where you are, depend on who your players are. But simply those are the questions that we're asking and how to use this form to improve your program. if we move into point number 2, the focus is on serving those young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I think we all know that, right? And so, you know, our intern eligibility is if you're a high school program that you're serving people who have an IEP, and those folks who are eligible for VR services. If you're an adult program, that you have some age range that's identified and that it's cohesive. So that would be one of those things that you want to consider, right? So we recommend a cohort of 18 to 30, because again, it is a little more cohesive. You bring in older adults, it upsets the apple cart. That's the best way to say it, right? There is not that same kind of dynamic. And maybe you have a program that runs that are 40 to 50-year-olds. That's okay. But again, the intention is for younger people, right? But I think if your community needs it and you feel like you need it, then that's something to have that conversation about. But again, making sure that that group is cohesive. And then that you're embracing interns with compounding factors. So factors like poverty and homelessness or foster care or mental illness. And if you do have individuals that have these specific barriers in their life, who else do you bring into your program? What are the other service providers or other resources that could be a part of your team? So if you are dealing with individuals who have more of a mental health component and you're from a school district, maybe you bring your student assistance program as part of your team. Maybe it's a crisis resource center that's a part of your team. If you are dealing with more folks that are in foster care, maybe the foster care agency or the entity from the state is a part of your team, right? That can help you understand those specific barriers for those individuals. So just you kind of have to remember that you're addressing the needs of the people who are on your team. I also think that there's kind of this myth about the Project Search Steering Committee that it has to be static, that we can't add and subtract members as needed. And certainly you want to address your cohort's needs. So again, if you have individuals in next year's class that have more barriers that are different than in past years, add somebody new. If that next year you don't have that need for that person, that's okay. They can stay a part of the team if they want to, but you also could say, hey, we don't need your services this year. You know, can we keep you in mind for years to come, right? So just being able to add those agencies or those resources as you need them. This whole next section is about the recruitment and selection. So again, that there's this intentional plan. We want to make sure that we're recruiting and that we start recruitment often. I'm sorry, early, right? So again, whether you're a high school program or an adult program, starting in October is not too early. At least starting to look at the application again, reviewing your materials as a steering committee, looking at that information, and then posting it and getting it out in November, and hosting multiple information sessions. One thing that just blows my mind from all around the country that I hear is like, oh yeah, we had an info session. Nothing these days happens just once, right? And so, you know, having multiple information sessions, and I know that that takes a lot of time and that takes a lot of preparation. But again, if you're spreading it out, if you have an information session in November and you have one in January and one in February as a last ditch effort, then you're covered, right? So you can have multiple ones and even offering them in different locations. We always would love it to have it at the host business. We think that's really, really important. But if you can't have all three at the host business, maybe you have one at each partner. You have one at the host business, one at the CRP, and one at the school district. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So again, thinking about that and creating a specific plan. Number 2 addresses the program size. So again, having that conversation, having the conversation with the host business. Okay, you know, what do you think is your number? Looking at them first and asking them first. And then going to the school district. What's the number? What's your magic number? What's the number that will support the staff? And then looking at the CRP last. And not that it has to be in any kind of order like that, but just asking that question of each body and then looking at the number. Do those numbers match? Does everybody say 8's my number and we're good to go? Or does somebody say 10's my number? Somebody says 6 is my number and someone says 4 is my number. Well, guess what, folks? Then you got to go with 10, right? And then what's that conversation on how do you get every other partner to understand why that partner needs 10? And so, you know, I think that too is a really robust conversation. That may be the steering committee, but that might also have to be some people, again, you know, that are big decision makers at each site, right? Or each partner. So you want to make sure you have the right people at the table to understand that about each partner. The other thing too, that we kind of hear mixed things about, but is that the selection committee has representatives of all partners on it. So when you're making that selection and when you're holding your skills assessment day, that you have a business partner, that you have your CRPs and your skills trainers there, that you have your education partner there. And so that's not just the instructor. It is not up to the instructor to send out the application, review the application, invite the interns. It is a team effort, and really having that discussion and identifying who's going to do what for that entire process. Also remembering that skills assessment day is a requirement. So yes, that's something that was added a few years ago, but it is a requirement, and it is not meant to weed people out. It is meant so that the instructor and skills trainers can plan for the needs of the interns as the year moves forward. So even if you can't, for whatever reason, conduct a skills assessment day as part of your application process, you should still hold one prior to the start of the program. And having that, again, being able to identify things that are needed for the host business, that's where you kind of start. What are the things that we know our interns really need to know to be here? And that, again, can be different from site to site. But, you know, things, maybe it is like time management. Maybe it is things with dexterity. Maybe all of your interns have to change their clothes when you're there. You need to make sure that they can do that, right? And so if not, how, again, are you going to skill up your interns, or what accommodations and adaptations are you going to make for those individuals that can't do it? So just remember, skills assessment day is not meant to weed people out. It's meant to show what are your students' strengths, what are their weaknesses, and how can you plan for that as you move forward? So once again, there's that committee action plan, the comments, the program strengths, the critical issues, and then what's your plan? How are you going to enact that in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years? All right. So number 3 in model fidelity is that we are a collaborative partnership, right? And collaboration is not always cooperation. Somebody I heard, and I think I can't see everybody's picture, so it's hard for me to remember. Let me see if I could see people. Nope, people have shut off their cameras. Okay. I'm starting to get a complex about that, I have to say. I feel like when I start talking, everybody starts to shut off their cameras. But anyway, somebody mentioned at the beginning that all your partners don't always agree. You're right. You're probably not all going to agree, and that's okay. But you do have to come to a decision together, and you have to stick to that decision together. That's what part of collaboration is. So you may not agree on the place that you get to, but once you get there, you have to support that decision, right? And so I do think that there's value in reviewing the roles and responsibilities of everybody. There's a really great activity that we tend to do when we have the opportunity to work with steering committees, and we put up all the roles of people around the room. We name each partner, and we put, you know, the instructor up, and we put the skills trainer up, and then we put the VR counselor up, and then we put the business liaison up, you know, all around the room on chart paper. And we ask each person in the room to go up and write 2 or 3 things that you think that individual does. And 9 times out of 10, the instructor's list is like 4 pieces of paper and all the other partners are 1. And then we have that conversation and we say, okay, well, what are the things that we could take off of this instructor's plate, right? Because again, it should not all come down to the instructor. That person is not the end all be all when it comes to project search. It is about the partners. And so again, maybe that's something you can do with your steering committee, review those roles, do that activity. But I also, you know, meeting on a regular basis. I think that's one of those things that has happened after COVID, right? That folks have kind of lost that touch and they have lost not meeting on a regular time. We recommend that you meet monthly while the program is in action. Even if you're a longstanding program, there's always something to talk about. And I think I'm always kind of shocked when I hear that, oh, our meetings are 30 minutes and we're usually done in 20. What? Again, that's showing that there's not that collaboration between the partners. And of course, it's going to be down to 20 minutes if somebody doesn't have a reason to come to the meeting, right? You need a reason to come to the meeting. I was also glad to hear one team who said, oh, we structured our steering committee meetings differently because we were doing it as a rundown of each intern. No way, that shouldn't be what you have your decision makers there for. You have your decision makers there for programmatic changes, for things that you want help with, that you need support with, and for things to guide your program as you move through the year. So that's all really, really important. And those are, again, some of those standards that we want to see people get back to. Marilee, I saw you unmute. Did you have something to say?
I was just going to say, just kind of reiterate that one of the biggest beauties of project search is the collaborative part. I think it makes a much stronger, more effective outcomes to have all of us weaving together. I mean, including job development. And I think that's one thing that we can see is like one party is doing the job development, but because the job development is so hard, like everybody should be on board with job development. Parents, teacher, like the whole team should be kind of looking around, talking to people. But I think that is one of the values of project search is that role blended team approach and getting something that's kind of challenging done. Dawn just raised her hand. Go ahead, Dawn.
I just want to say, like, with the collaboration, being on the VR side of it, one of the things that I know that I've talked with the 3 different programs that I'm a part of is if there's the opportunity and somehow figuring out a way for VR staff counselors through the agency here at Access VR to be able to get more of that like on-site observation of what the interns are doing in a day-to-day. That way, when it comes to more of that, like the recruitment or the questions or just that overall comprehension and understanding during those steering meetings or the end of rotation meetings or mid-rotation meetings and stuff, but just to really help the Access VR counselor to really observe. And right now caseloads are huge and so, you know, but to have that availability, even if it was a temporary to see the actual sites or to have like a shadow day, to really help fully understand more of what the placements are, as well as to then have insight to maybe there needs to be additional tasks or to help model because of towards more competitive employment. Because if they're going to remain with us, those are the things that we need to kind of be able to assess. Are they getting that true pre-employment experience and exposures, or are they needing more advanced skills because it's not necessarily replicating what we're seeing employers and having employers and job developers coming to us looking for skill sets from interns or from potential employee candidates.
Yeah, Don, I think there's like 2 or 3 things that I heard you say that I think are valuable and important. And so, one is absolutely, right? So you as the VR counselor should be included in a lot of different things. And you're right. We know that in a lot of our host businesses, they are things are tighter, right? It's harder to get on site to see things and to do things. And I think that's understandable in some places. However, that is one of the reasons why we have those employment planning meetings. And that's also why we encourage folks to use the PowerPoint and to videotape your interns during their internships so that they can talk about what are the things that they're doing, what are those skill sets, and people can actually see it. That's valuable for both the VR counselor, but that's also valuable for their parents, right? I mean, again, we started the conversation with the tips and tricks, and somebody said, transitioning the parent. 100%, that parent needs to understand what that person is doing, because if they're not supportive at home, they're not going to be supportive for employment, and if they don't understand what their young person is doing, that's totally, you're not going to get that buy-in at all. So that's one thing. And I think the other thing is your input about what is available in those interns communities definitely has to be used in the Project Search program. That's what we want. We want them to be skilling up for the jobs that are available in their community. So for you or the job developer or anybody to be a part of those employment planning meetings so that you can say, hey, this kid has a goal of doing X, Y, and Z, and we know these 5 skill sets are needed for that job. How are we going to find them at the host business? That's the job of that on-site team. That's the job of the instructor and the skills trainer, to find those skill sets so that person is ready for employment. That's what Project Search is all about. So there definitely needs to be that collaboration and that conversation. Now, is it the end all be all? Like you said, caseloads are huge, and we know that. So you may not be able to make every meeting, but also then that means you should be getting the notes and you should be getting the PowerPoints so that you can see it and understand it, and you're not left in the dark. That's all about the collaboration, right? That's all about pulling that all together. And then I think going back to what Marilee said, just real quick, about job development, it's everybody's job to get that person a job. It's everybody's job. Anybody who's on that team has a responsibility to that. And when I say that, I don't mean that means, that the business liaison is supposed to hire that person at the host business. And I don't mean that the skills trainer's job is to find them a job, but it is utilizing all those people and all the connections, right? So who are you hearing about a job? Do you know of a job? Do you know somebody who's hiring? Utilizing all those people on your team for their connections and the things that they do. When I used to be a part of program, and it was this time of the year, our employment specialist instructor, I'm pretty sure, hated to see an email from me every morning, because I would go out and I'd go shopping somewhere, or I would go to dinner somewhere, or I'd do whatever. And I'd be like, hey, Marshall's is hiring. What about this for this person? And what about this? And, they got those emails from me on a regular basis. Or, I know this guy at my church. And so we would have those conversations on a regular basis. And that's what we're saying when we say it's everybody's job to get somebody's a job. Use those connections, use the resources you have. It can't be on that small team of people to find everybody a job. It just can't be, right? But also use your intern and their parents, and include them in those conversations and ask them questions and all of those types of things. So for sure, absolutely. There's a lot of chat going on, Marilee. Is there something to address? You're muted. You don't see it? Okay. You're muted.
Sorry, I've been going on and on. Dawn said, I think it would help the host business be more open to receive VR counselors when they're on site for meetings. I think that VR counselors should be able to tour and see where, what's happening, what the sites are like, how the interns are doing on the site. So that seems to make sense to me.
That is not spelled out.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. All right. All right. So then number 3, dedicated, consistent, and trained staff. So I'm sure you all are sick of hearing from me and getting emails from me about the trainings that are available and the ones that are required. But it is a part of the Model Fidelity. And just remember, Model Fidelity supports the license. So whoever your license holder is, it's their responsibility to uphold this Model Fidelity, which means then it's their responsibility to make sure that everybody is trained appropriately in project search. And so again, that those skills trainers, so if you have a skills trainer from a CRP, that person is dedicated. They may have a different caseload, and they may see people before or after project search hours, but during project search hours, they should be dedicated to the site. And so again, having those conversations and figuring that out, that's why it's important to know the numbers of all of your partners to make sure that they are sustainable. I already talked about the licensing. I will tell you that this statement here, the annual licensing renewal fee is paid starting the 2nd year of the program operation and each year after. That is changing. So it will be due the first year after the first year of program, right? So typically you pay your license, and then within that year, you are starting your program. And then that next October is when the licensing renewal is due. If that's the way that it happens, but just so you know that it's whenever your program starts operation. So you don't pay the licensing fee for that first year of operations, but the 2nd year you will be billed. All right.
The first original OG of
Okie dokie. All right, we have like 10 more minutes before break. Just want to make sure that we hit this. All right, so the program is business focused. That is really fundamental to the whole piece of project search, right? That's one of the reasons that project search is so successful. And so again, I think we hear more and more where folks are struggling in their host business with having that strong business liaison. And so again, if this is something that you need support from myself or Marilee from, reach out to us. The business liaison is a core piece of making project search work. And so if we have to have a conversation with your host business and figure out who the right person is, we certainly can do that. And we want to help you find the right person. That right person needs to be somebody who has access to people, who can help you make those connections, and who has the ability to kind of be the cheerleader at your host site. So we definitely want to be able to help you with that resource. In addition to them providing a business liaison, we also, again, we would say having access to an on-site training room or workspace, right? So someplace where people can land and go. I know I said in the beginning that it's not a deal breaker, but again, how do we work to find that space, whether it is a part of the host business or close to the host business for your program?
Banks sometimes have great classroom kind of meeting space, just as another idea.
What do banks? Really? Interesting. That's great. So the steering committee also has access, right? And will train managers, mentors, supervisors, coworkers on working with the interns. So again, bringing in individuals to have those conversations. Have your VR counselor do a presentation about, working with individuals with disabilities. And again, this is if it's needed, right? So if it's not something that's needed, then we're not going to encourage you and make people go through that. But if there's questions, or if it's hard for people, or if folks are asking for it, right? It does not have to lay on the shoulders of that on-site team. Use the resources of your steering committee and bring those resources in. Ensuring that there are mentors for the interns at each site, and that they're evaluating the interns' progress. And so making sure that they're giving accurate feedback. So again, I love that word, intentional, ask intentional questions. And that you're gathering that information through the course of the entire internship, right? So we want to make sure that every employment planning meeting, you have some feedback, and you have feedback that is goal-oriented, right? And we used to encourage you to invite the managers and mentors to the employment planning meetings. I'm not going to say that that still isn't an encouragement. We would love to have that happen, but again, we know that people are busy. So maybe you record them. Maybe you just videotape them on your phone saying good things or talking about the things that a student needs to improve on. Again, another voice at the table when you're talking about those employment goals during your employment planning meetings is valuable, especially when it's coming from the business, right? It's hard to argue when the manager is saying, Marilee's productivity needs to go up, that we need her to do X amount, before the end of the day. It's hard to argue with that, right? That's the employer, that's the host business. And so again, what are the strategies? How are we going to get Marilee to get that productivity up? And then I think also, the benefits to the employees. I think every one of you who are at a Project Search site knows that there are those employees that love our program, that love working with the interns, that have a better and brighter day because we are there, and they have learned something different about themselves. How can you highlight that? How can you as a program highlight that? That's a great question for that steering committee. That's a great topic of conversation of getting more information, and talk about a great marketing tool, right? If you have your employees talking about what it's like to work with your interns. Again, I think a lot of things that we do in Project Search, yeah, we ask a lot of programs, but a lot of them have multiple uses. And so these are some of those ideas, right? Like if you have this information, use it. Don't just keep it for one thing, use it in multiple ways. If managers and mentors are giving valuable feedback and talk about how that's being, how they're being a team player or a productive worker or whatever they're doing, use that information, use that as part of their employment planning meetings, maybe use that as part of their resume, use that as part of their interview speak, right? Incorporate all of those things for your interns. All right, and then the last 4.2 is intern immersion. So again, we make sure that we are having 60 to 90 minutes of curriculum every day. Doesn't matter when that time happens, it's just that you are having it. So you're having 60 to 90 minutes every day, that the interns are immersed into the host business and are out training 4 hours, minimum of 4 hours. Again, that's one of those things that we're hearing from sites. Well, actually it's 3, 4 and lunch, right? So 4 hours plus a half hour for lunch. So again, incorporating that time in getting folks on site and getting their learning, all of those types of things are really important for that model fidelity.
Holly, talking about lunch, what's the model fidelity, or what's the belief in where students should take lunch?
Wherever the department takes lunch. So each individual intern probably should have their own lunchtime. We definitely discourage having like a group lunch. Everybody should not stop at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock or whatever. Because again, remember, we want to simulate real work, and that doesn't happen in the real world. The whole team does not shut down at 11 o'clock and take lunch, right? And it helps people learn time management skills, especially if each individual internship has a different lunchtime. It helps with folks to learn flexibility, especially our folks that have a little bit of difficulty with that, right? So try to do that, and negotiate with your managers and mentors about that. And kind of press them a little bit. If they say, oh, it's up to you, we don't care. Say, well, when's your busy time? What time does it get slow? And if that time is 12 o'clock, the time's 12 o'clock. And that's okay, because again, we want to be really assimilating our interns into the world of real work. So yeah, that's the philosophy, that we definitely want them to have their own lunch hour. And it shouldn't really be planned by the program. It should be planned by the department. The interns and on-site staff follow the host business policies and procedures. That's another one that, again, I think getting back to basics, and how do we negotiate that with the other roles of people, right? So from school district rules to CRP rules or OPWDD rules, like how do we make that all happen? It can be complicated. It's not always easy, but does it warrant those conversations? Yes, right? We need to have those conversations. We need to know all of those things. Every instructor and skills trainer who is on this call should really recognize the fact that, yes, your paycheck comes from a different organization, but ultimately you work in that host business. So you need to uphold those policies and procedures and be a good steward of whatever entity that is, right? And so, and then in turn, have that same expectations for those interns. So we want to have those conversations. We want to be open and honest about that. We want to know those rules and be very clear on it. Sometimes, again, I have this conversation all the time. Things that may be a deal breaker at school might not even be a blip on the radar at a host business from an employer's standpoint. So you just kind of have to remember those types of things, that again, school and work are very different. And yes, you may have to uphold some policies from the school district, but ultimately you're in that host business and they kind of win out in some situations. And so you gotta really think about it in a different frame of mind sometimes. All right, number 5, the program leads to the acquisition of competitive skills. So this is exactly what Dawn was talking about, right? So we want to make sure that our interns are in the departments learning competitive, marketable, and transferable skills. There is no need to train somebody on something that cannot be transferred to the community. That is not a skill needed for employment, right? And is it always about those hard work skills? No. It is also about those soft skills and the communication skills and the social skills that go around that. But we need to be, again, intentional about the plan. It's one of the reasons why we require a Voc Fit. So I know that Voc Fit is also something that people struggle with. There are some changes that are coming to it, so hopefully that'll make things a little bit better. But again, I think if you are struggling in your program or you feel like maybe your host business isn't as engaged as it used to be, here's the part of the model Fidelity that you can kind of hone in on and really have those strong conversations in your steering committee about that. And go over Voc Fit. Have that conversation with the host business and the departments that you're in. Have them help you fill that out so that they understand all the things that go into those decision, making process and why an intern is in a certain department. Again, I think people have to understand that project search is different. It's different than any pre-employment transition service or work-based learning experience. It's different than other internships. It's different than other programs that exist out there. It's different than volunteering. And you need to help the business really understand that. Our employment planning meetings, this too is another one, 2 times each internship. I'm a big proponent of once a month. I think 9 meetings to get somebody on track, that's nothing. 6 meetings can really be it could get overwhelming for the intern. If you break it up for the 9, makes it a little more palatable. It also helps transition those parents a little easier. Again, coming together for only 6 times in a year and then saying, boom, bing, bang, boom, your kid's ready for employment, right? So again, helping those parents, helping everybody understand what's going on in that intern's life. Who are the connections that they need to be connected to? Why is that important? And following up on those loops, right? Always kind of coming back and closing those loops. That's why it's important to have those employment planning meetings and to really take a look at that on a regular basis and get them scheduled ahead of time so that people know when to take off of work or what's the best time for somebody. Again, is that easy? Nope. No, that's a lot of coordination, but that is something that we encourage you to do before the program starts. So you have time, let's say in the summer or, during your prep time to get that all together. Our employability skills curriculum. So Project Search is on its 4th iteration of the employability skills curriculum. It has been recently updated. So again, whether you're a high school program or an adult program, that curriculum is there for you to use. And we want you to use that curriculum over any other curriculum that's out there. And that it should be delivered for 1 hour every day. However, it's often front loaded. So the first few months of the program, you're really focused on that curriculum. And then, depending on your cohort, maybe that wanes a little bit after January and definitely after March, because at those times, that's when job preparation is happening. So that classroom time, that training time is definitely going to shift. So it's not always going to be about that curriculum, but know that that's the resource that we want you to use. And it does not matter about the population that it's being delivered to. Number 5, we know travel training. This is the one that we know that most programs struggle with, right? But we really want our program participants to travel to the host business independently. And so can they be learning that over the summer before a program starts? Can they be learning that after program starts and maybe doing some things so that they're getting familiarized with independent transportation and that by the end of the program, they're capable of using it? Those are the things that we want to see. It shouldn't be, oh, we can't do it, so we're not going to even try, right? What are those other options and resources? How can we pull transportation in as much as possible, even if the yellow school bus has to bring your students to site? What are those other ways? Again, great tip at the beginning, using the transition week, having people schedule their paratransit to take them to interviews, to take them to job shadows. Those are great resources and ideas. All right, and then lastly, and quickly, database entry and continuous improvement. We want to make sure that every partner has access to the database. Again, this is something that kind of really got off track, and it feels like the person who holds the license is the person who is most active in the member portal. And again, remember, collaboration. Every partner should have access to the member portal. Every person on your steering committee should be in your member portal. And there's reports like Access VR. All of your counselors or your liaison counselor or anybody should be in that portal so they can run the reports. They can run their employment reports that are going to give them information about the types of jobs that the interns are receiving and the number of hours that they're working and their wages. That doesn't have to come from somebody else. It's right there. It's in the Project Search portal. Give them access, allow them to run those reports. Remember that we have evidence-based resources. So anything that we do at Project Search, we're looking at the research behind it. We have Dennis Cleary, who is a part of our research team. That's a big part of what his job is looking at the resources that we have in the research and how we then use that research to structure it. I've been talking a lot about Project Search interns in Michigan. So there's a pocket of research that's occurring in Michigan that is saying that individuals who have went through Project Search and were employed 75% of them are still employed after 5 years. That's a huge result. That's amazing data. We don't know if that's just specific to Michigan, right? They're studying it, but we'd love to know that from other places. And so, utilizing the data and the information that people put in. Now, the problem is data in is data out. And so we rely on all of our project search program sites to get that data in. Again, reminder, you guys graduate most people in June. So your outcome data is due at the end of this month. And so, make sure that it's accurate, and you can go in and edit it. So the other thing is 9 months is a long time. There might be some project search interns that received raises since then. Go in, update it, edit it, say that their wage is higher, because it is. And so, it's not a one and done. We want you to go back in there and check it out all the time. And then lastly, that strategic plan. But like I said, really, what is the goal for your program? What do you want to accomplish in the next year? What do you want to accomplish in the next 3 years? What do you want to accomplish in the next 5 years? And just kind of write that out and have that as part of your steering committee agenda. That's the header of your agenda every time. Here are our goals and how are we going to get to it? All right. Sorry, Marilee, I went over time.
Thank you so much for all that detailed information. I think it's really helpful. And I just want to call out a couple of comments from the chat. And Julia Kelly said that this is about lunches, and when people do lunches with their colleagues, that people develop relationships with business coworkers during that lunchtime, and they're much more approachable, making those relationships when students are connected with their colleagues directly. And then Marianne talked about, when we think of travel training, also think about like road crossings, managing the parking lot, navigation are definitely pieces to consider. So
you're right, Marianne. Those are things that are often forgotten. And again, not things that we share with our parents either, right? And that's really, really important. Yeah. I'm just real quick, Marilee, if I can just share a story. So we have one program in the state of West Virginia, and I just happened, a meeting got canceled, and I popped into their steering committee meeting last week, and they were talking about graduation and employment rates, and their outcomes were due. So they were reviewing all of that. And the instructor happened to say, hey, here's a pretty cool thing. One of their young men who was in their second year of program got a full-time job at Ruby Memorial in Morgantown, West Virginia. And the young man, he bumped into the young man earlier in the week. The young man said to him, hey, guess what? And he said, I don't know, what's going on? And he said, I got my dad a job here. That intern helped his own father write a resume, input that resume into the WVU Medicine HR portal, and interview for his job. He practiced all the things that he learned in Project Search with his dad, and now his dad has a job. And prior to that, that intern was the primary breadwinner in the household. So our impact is huge, folks. And every one of our interns are people who should be able to do that with their family member, right? They all should be leaving program with the ability to write a resume, upload that resume, and interview in a program. But we don't oftentimes share that with people, right? And so, golly, if you want to make sure that that's what's happening, and talking about transitioning that parent, maybe that's a parent night that you have, that you sit down and you say, hey, we're going to show you that your intern can do this, right? And, you log into the host business web portal and you say, here it is, this is how they apply. And you do a dummy one just so that they know and that they understand that their young person is able to do these things without support, or without help or whatever that support or help is, that they have it and they know how to use it. And I just think it can be magical, and it can be life-changing for a lot of people. And we need to remember that.